Bore da i chi gyd, gobeithio eich bod yn cadw'n dda ac yn ddiogel, a diolch yn fawr iawn am ymuno gyda ni bore yma. Good morning everyone, thank you for joining us. I hope you're remaining safe and well, and thank you for joining us this morning. Cyflwyno'r y sesiwn hon gartref, felly esgusodwch unrhyw sŵn cefndir posib, ac ymddiheirwn am unrhyw oedi yn y sleidiau. This session is presented from home, so please excuse any potential background noise and apologies for any potential delays when moving between the slides. There is sometimes a slight lag. Nod y webinar heddiw yw i roi'r wybodaeth ddiweddaraf i ddarparwyr a diwydiant ar ddatblygiad a dilyniant cymwysterau newydd, adeiladwaith a pheirianneg gwasanaethau adeiladu i Gymru. Fel y gwyddoch eisoes, mae'r cymwysterau newydd yma yn cael eu baratoi gan City Guilds ac IEL ar y cyd, ac yn cael ei ddysgu gyntaf ym Medi 2021. Yn ystod y webinar, bydd grandawyr yn y modd gwrando yn unig. Today's session is aimed at keeping providers and the industry updated on the development and progression of the new construction and building services engineering qualifications for Wales. As I'm sure you're already aware, these qualifications are being developed by City Guilds and IEL and will be ready for first teaching in September 2021. During the webinar, listeners will be in listen-only mode. Defnyddiwch y tab cwestiynau ar eich panel ar y sgrin i ofyn unrhyw gwestiwn. Yn dilyn diweddariad byr, byddwn yn gofyn i'n panelwyr i ateb eich cwestiynau, felly dyma eich cyfle chi i ofyn unrhyw gwestiwn am y cymwysterau newydd yma. To engage with the webinar, please use the questions tab on your on-screen panel. Following a brief update, we will ask the delegate to type in their questions for the panel to answer. This is your opportunity to ask any questions regarding these new qualifications. Fe fydd arolwg yn y tab cwestiynau ac fe fyddwn yn rhannu link ar gyfer yr arolwg yma ar ôl y webinar. Fe fyddwn yn ddiolchgar iawn gyda chi'n gallu ei gwblhau mwyn yn helpu gynllunio cefnogaeth a sesiynau ar gyfer y dyfodol. Fe fydd recordiad o'r webinar yma yn ogystal â'r cwestiynau yn cael ei rhoi ar ein gwefan sgiliaigymru.cymru yn fuan. There is a survey in the chat and we will share the survey link at the end of the webinar. Please take a few brief moments to complete as this will help us plan future sessions and support. The recording of this webinar along with questions will be on our website skillsforwales.wales very soon. Mae gen sawl gwesteiwr heddiw ar gyfer y webinar. We have several panelists for today's webinar, and I'd like to thank them all for joining us today. Panelwyr sydd gyda ni yw Dr Daniel Trowans, sef uwch reolwr cymwysterau i Gymwysterau Cymru, Senior Qualifications Manager for Qualifications Wales. David Pye, Cynghorydd Technegol i City Guilds ar gyfer peiriannau gwasanaethau adeiladu, Lead Technical Advisor for BSc for City Guilds. Ian Roberts, Cynghorydd Technegol i City Guilds ar gyfer adeiladwaith, Technical Advisor for City Guilds for Construction. Susan Beattie, Reolwr ansawdd ar gyfer y rwydwaith. Susan Beattie, who's the Nations Manager for Quality. And Paul Rice, sef Reolwr Datblygu Cynnyrch i IEL, Product Development Manager for IEL. Fe wnawn ni nawr edrych ar yr agenda. We will now look at the agenda. Felly yr agenda heddi, fi wedi gwneud y cyflwyniad yn barod. Ni'n mynd i edrych ar y cerrig filltir a chefnogaeth yn y dyfodol. Yna ni'n mynd i symud ymlaen i edrych ac i baratoi ar gyfer darparu ym mis Medi. Felly, yr hyn ni'n mynd i edrych arno yw'r prospectus, sut i gymeradwyo canolfannau, cynllunwyr darparu uned sylfaen, y diweddaraf am adnoddau, ac yna ni'n mynd i edrych ar y canllaw 8 ac yna ar y diwedd fe fydd gennym ni sesiwn holi ac ateb. So the agenda will be, I've already made the introductions, and then we'll be looking at the milestones and future support. And then we will look at the preparation for delivery for September 2021, and in this it will include looking at the prospectus, centre approval, foundation delivery planner, the resource guide, 8-step guide, and at the end we will then take a look at all the questions and an opportunity for you, and just a reminder for you to put any questions in the chat. Fe hoffwn nawr drosglwyddo i David Pye a fydd yn trafod ychydig o'r sleidiau nesaf gyda chi. I would now like to pass you on to David Pye, who will take you through the next few slides. Diolch.
Thank you very much, Anne-Helen, and welcome everyone. We will start with the first of two timeline slides which show some of our target dates. The first slide shows some of our current milestones. Full approval for the foundation documents is due in the next few weeks, and we aim to submit the apprenticeship documents prior to Christmas, but more of that on the next slide. We have also provided a link to all our previous webinars which are recorded. This is particularly useful if this is your first webinar and you've been able to join us, as it's an opportunity to catch up on previous consultation. Now we move on to future development and support. We have emboldened a few dates we wish to highlight, such as Foundation Readiness webinars, which start in January 2021. The approval process launch dates, more on that in a few slides. Further readiness webinars for progression and apprenticeships starting in February. More dedicated teaching and learning support from April, and the main date of September 2021 for the first teaching. This is important to note as it helps us all work together towards the same goal. Moving on now to some of our support material. Please see on this slide several snips of a prospectus we have created to help inform your own marketing and prospectus documentation. It includes typical learner journey and progression routes and helps you to add the latest information and guidance into your own promotional literature. It also helps provide guidance and information for your open days, advice to employers, parents, prospective learners, and so on. This slide shows our resource document. You may have seen drafts of this in previous webinars and meetings, and we have further developed this document based on feedback from following on from those sessions. The resource document aims to give providers with an overview of staffing, resources, and stages of delivery. The stages of delivery will assist in planning the programme by giving an overview of what is required, by who, at which stage. It also notes the type of assessment required for the qualification. The workshop resources section is an overview of the workshop requirements and resources. The document also includes the assessor and IQA requirements. Here we have another supporting document, the Foundation Delivery Planner. This is designed to complement the scheme of work. It is a basic document by design and gives an overview of units and delivery weeks. It operates best as a working document as it can be printed and adapted as necessary. Similar documents have been used in the past where tutors will record amendments, tick off lessons when complete, and add in their own comments such as revision weeks, guest lectures, and so on. We also have a blank version which can be used for other qualifications, simply by adding in the units and the weeks you plan to deliver. The last slide, before I pass you over to my colleague, shows us the readiness checklist. This is a self-assessment of your own knowledge of the new qualifications and readiness to deliver. Completing this document will give you the opportunity to analyse your current readiness and to help plan in anticipation of delivery and approval. This leads us nicely into the next few slides, which discusses the approval process covered by my colleague Susan.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all well and keeping safe. What I would like to do is give you an overview of the approval journey for these new qualifications then, and I'll take a few minutes and a few slides to do that. Because we now have two awarding organisations coming together to offer these qualifications, what we did was created a bespoke centre and qualification approval application form. And it was really to avoid centres having to duplicate this information. If it's one form to be completed for both awarding organisations and all qualifications, it does save in duplication. So regardless of which awarding body you're seeking approval with, it'll be one form that's to be completed. The application and guidance documents will be available in Welsh and English, and these will be available on the Skills for Wales website in the new year then. On completion of the application form, it should be emailed to skillsforwales.quality@cityandguilds.com, so it's one email inbox for all applications. And you'll spot the sort of check error. The email address will change that's on the spirit of the slide. Now, prior to submission of an application form, centre staff from EAL and City and Guilds will get in touch with centres. This is to offer support, help with any queries you might have, and also give us an opportunity to get to know each other. On receipt of the application, we'll keep you up to date with progress as well. During the webinar, we're going to ask centres to give us an idea about when they think they might be looking to seek approval for the qualifications, and that'll help us allocate external quality assurers at the right time then. Once the application form is submitted, it will be reviewed by the quality teams in City and Guilds and EAL. We might ask for additional information if there's gaps in the application, or if it's incomplete, we may return it to the centre to ask that it is resubmitted. The application includes a data consent form, so this is consent that you agree that the information can be shared between EAL and City and Guilds then. Once the application has been accepted, an external quality assurer will be allocated. So these EQAs are subject matter experts, and they'll arrange with the centre to complete the approval activity. So they'll contact the centre, arrange a day, confirm what information they require. And we work to a 30-day KPI for an approval decision within 30 working days after receipt of a complete application. A copy of the approval report completed by the EQA will be shared with the centre then, so you will see that. And the report will detail what the EQA looked at, so if the qualification and centre requirements are in place, any staff involved, policies, plant and equipment required. The EQA will outline any actions the centre needs to follow up, and there'll be additional information required to support the application. The report will recommend whether approval can be granted, if there's approval with actions, or if the approval has been declined. There'll be full details of why it might be declined, and the centre will be welcome to submit further applications once any actions have been met. If we can go on to the next slide, please, David. So these are the approval timelines then. So these are the dates we're working towards just now. So the documents, as I said, will be available on the Skills for Wales website in the new year. Centres can submit applications. We expect from February, but it'll likely be March then. Again, we'll ask yourselves that during this webinar. The EQA will complete the approval activity. However, I must stress that centres, you will not be able to register candidates until the qualifications are available in September. So once you'll have the approval activity, we'll confirm that in writing, but it will be September before you can actually register candidates then. As I've mentioned before, we have a 30-day KPI to give you an approval decision. So we'd expect the first approvals to be completed in April time then. What we would prefer is that centres have submitted applications by June. This, we can pretty much guarantee then that you would have the approval in place, or that approval activity, before centres finish up for the holidays then round about July time. So it means you'd be ready to register in September. Any applications received in July, it could take longer for them to get approved given holidays. And yeah, sorry, and then the qualifications go live in September. Sorry, David, could you move on to the next slide, please? So these are samples of the approval guidance, the application guidance form that we've put together. So just information that we're required, it's just help for centres, and the approval application form as well. So again, these will be available on the Skills for Wales website. Now, I must stress that centres that already have approved are already approved with EAL and City and Guilds must not submit applications for these through Walled Garden or the EAL system then, so they won't be accepted. So once the qualifications go live, it must always be this application form that's completed. We can't accept any applications in any other formats. And that's it from me. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Susan, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me. I am pleased to confirm through the consultation and feedback we have received, we are now nearing the final version of the employer guide. And what you see here is some of the documents that's enclosed within that guide. The employer guide will contain various forms, guidance notes on the role of the employer, training provider, and awarding bodies will provide and how to complete the forms in ensuring the apprenticeship is supported throughout their journey. Our employer guide, which is a writable PDF allowing the document to be completed electronically or hard copy, is contextualized to each trade area. As we are aware, the learner will spend a considerable amount of their time in the realistic working environment. And although there is no NVQ within the new apprenticeship model, an apprentice will still provide a range of evidence that allows the training provider to check the evidence is valid. This is captured through the employer confirmation documents that are contained within the employer guide. The purpose of the confirmation sign-off is to capture the activities and provide stakeholders, including trade bodies, confidence that the learner is occupationally proficient and has covered the full range of the relevant standards to allow the learner to progress to the final part of their assessment process, the professional discussion. We are aware that the employer confirmation is a new process and may raise a few concerns. To support stakeholders throughout this process, we, the consortium, will provide training providers and employers the opportunity to attend webinars to provide the additional guidance you may require in completing this process. And the webinars will commence in January. Next slide, please. This is a draft version of an employer 8-step guide that will be located within the employer guide to help simplify each stage of the apprentice journey. As you can see on step 1, apprentice will secure employment and starts their learner journey. In step 2, the training provider then will meet with the employer to identify the range of tasks required to meet the occupational competency statements and discuss the work-based project. Step 5, observations of practical industry project by training provider assessor as agreed in step 2. And then when you come to step 7, the apprentice progresses to the final assessment. So once the relevant documentation in the employer guide are completed, then that will then allow the learner to progress to their final assessment of that robust assessment process, which is the professional discussion. And then the final stage, which is step 8, upon successful completion of all components, City and Guilds and EAL will certificate learner who can then apply for their skills card, the relevant card appropriately. Thank you, David.
Hi, everyone. I'm Paul Rice from EAL, and what we will do is we'll run through a question and answer session. If you could place your questions into the question tab, we will endeavour to answer those questions. Please appreciate that some questions can't be answered here due to time, or they may be quite complex. And if we don't answer your question, we will endeavour to publish the answers later on. We are now going to run a poll question. So while you're thinking up your questions and typing them, we're going to run a poll. So if you could run through this and we'll get the answers through to them. And once we've given you a bit of time to do this, we will then start the question and answer session. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. I've just clicked the poll. People have started answering. So we're looking for some feedback on when people would be most likely to start the approval process. It will help us prepare for those applications. I can see a few are still clicking on the buttons. We'll just leave it open for another 30 seconds or so, and then we can close the poll. Okay, it appears as though everyone has answered. So if you haven't, you final few moments just to give you an opportunity to answer, and I'll close the poll now. Okay, you should see on your screen in a moment the poll results, so sharing those. So it does look as though there are 59% looking to start that application process early next year. So that's really helpful feedback for us. We can help the centres with that application process and make sure we have the staffing in place to respond to that. Thank you very much.
All right, brilliant. Thank you very much. Shall we move on to the actual questions now, David?
Yeah, we can open up the questions. So maybe we'll just pause for a quick moment whilst we look at some of your questions that may come in already. And then, Paul, if you're okay, showing those questions out to the panel, and we'll try and answer everyone's queries and questions. Thank you.
Okay, right. As I said, please bear with us. We do have a bit of a job to read through the questions and try and allocate them to the correct person. So what we'll do is we'll start off with a question that I will answer, which is around on the Skills for Wales website. There is no draft documentation for the progression level 2 and the level 3 apprenticeship qualification. That's across all pathways. Yes, we understand that the foundation documentation has been completed and has been uploaded, but the other two qualifications are on a slightly different development path, so they will be coming a little bit later. We intend to publish those documents in the new year. That said, if you want to see what is in them now, please get in contact with us using the emails on the presentation, and we can include you on the development team as such to look at and review the content of those qualifications documents. The next question I'm going to hand over to David, and it's from Alex at Qualifications Wales, and she'd like to know how do we get hold of those resource and prospectus documents. She can see they're not available on the Skills for website just yet.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. We aim to make those available following the webinar. So what we'll probably do is try and encourage people to complete the survey, and following that or shortly afterwards, we'll aim to send those out as a document. I'll pick this up with marketing after today. It may be that they're hosted on the Skills for Wales website and we send a link, whichever the easiest way of showing those is, but hopefully they'll be with everyone very soon.
Fantastic, thanks, David. So I've got two questions that are different but very similar. One is from Kevin Robinson and the other is from Dale Patrick. So Kevin asks, this will be for Susan Beattie. So Kevin asks, why isn't that automatic approval granted for centres currently registered to deliver similar qualifications? And Dale Patrick asks, do EAL centres have to seek approval to deliver the new qualifications? So these are very similar questions. Susan, would you be able to answer those?
Thank you. And basically, because these are brand new qualifications, then automatic approval does not apply. So that is why then it does need to be a new application form for these qualifications.
Thank you, Susan. Is it worth a note on the EAL qualifications? How EAL?
Centres that have approval for qualifications at the moment with EAL and City and Guilds, they are going to have to seek approval for the new qualifications. So again, because they're brand new qualifications, we are looking at the data sharing agreement between EAL and City and Guilds to look at the information we can share. So if a centre has approval with City and Guilds, then if we can transfer that, or consider that if you're looking at City and Guilds approval and vice versa, then so we are looking at that at the moment.
Brilliant, thank you very much, Susan. So the next question is for Dan. It's from Nigel Burford. Again, it's around funding. There's very limited information discussion regarding the continued funding for the current level 1 diplomas that are available for our learners. Can you tell us what is happening? Dan, I appreciate you won't be able to answer that question completely, but if you could give us any advice, it'd be brilliant.
Yes, no problem, Paul. So where we are with the level 1 provision is, as you're all aware, there are new qualifications being developed in that space. However, we are acutely aware of ensuring that a learner has a clear progression route and progressing from what was a level 1 trade specific qualification, which many learners do now, into a level 2 foundation qualification, which is much broader and doesn't appear to be the most suitable route. So we've been working with a variety of awarding bodies to look at what the level 1 provision should look like, and we're looking for continuing to designate qualifications such as the level 1 in construction skills and the level 1 in BSE skills as an alternative for those level 1 learners, so they get a broader experience with in construction or building services engineering.
Okay, thank you. So that's good, Dan. So the next question I have is for Dave. I think would be a good answer for this one. Which work-based providers were contacted in South Wales for plumbing? David, are you able to advise? I know that our team at EAL have been working on that as well.
Yeah, I know that Jason Marsland and some of your colleagues, Paul, I've worked with them on the fringe of some of that development. I've worked personally a bit more on the development on the foundation with Ian because of where we've sort of split the work. But there's been a working group that Jason's been working with, supported closely by BAC, and Jason's been sharing some of the documentation, working through that with this working group, of which there are several members. I don't know who those are off the top of my head to name them, but if you're interested in joining or getting involved with that, please drop us an email after today. I can share that with Jason and add you to some of the consultation that working group in Wales have been looking at some of the documentation. So it'd be great to get other people's thoughts on it if you're interested in joining.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, David. So the next question I have for Susan Beattie again, which is worst case scenario, what happens when a centre does not get approval for any of the qualifications? I
had just seen that question there. The report from the EQA and from City and Guilds or EAL it'll clearly state where the gaps are and what needs to be completed by the centre in order to get approval then. So centres will be able to submit another approval application then. So it's not, you only get one opportunity, you can resubmit the application, but you would need to make sure that the centre takes on the advice of the EQA then, so further applications can be submitted. Hopefully that answers that.
Brilliant, thank you very much, Susan. So the next question I've got is for Ian. It's from Ben James.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ben, for the question. Would
you like to read it out?
No, if you don't mind. So
it's, how will we engage employers in webinars and meetings with training providers? Engagement events with employers are always poorly attended. Employers say they don't have the time.
Yeah, thank you. And it is a really good question, to be honest. And what we have been doing over the past considerable number of months is work closely with CITB through Gareth Williams, which we really appreciate. their support, the Federation of Master Builders, the National Federation of Builders, and Business Innovation and Small Business, small businesses, I should say, Cuffley, Apprentice, Shared Apprenticeship Schemes. And what we have been able to do is hold employer focus group meetings. Up to press, we've held 4 meetings at this moment. And although a couple have been poorly attended, we have had at least 40 inquiries wanting to join the employer focus group meetings. And we do attend various other federation group meetings as well to get the information disseminated. We engage with employers and stakeholders, and it's not just construction, it's building services as well, on a monthly basis, forward them the relevant documentation, the update information out, so they're kept well up to date, up to speed with what is happening. And just recently, again, this last few weeks, we've sent out a questionnaire asking them what would be the best day of the week and the best time to attend any future webinars moving forward, because we fully understand employers are very busy, some 7 till 5, 8 till 4, or whatever time they're going to be there. So we're asking their opinions on what would be the best time to hold these webinars. And like anything, we fully understand they're really busy, heavily involved with making sure the work's coming in, getting the monies in and everything else. But working with the federations, the apprenticeship schemes and everything else, that is the way. And obviously colleges as well, through their employer networks, that's the way we're getting the message out, the word out, and we're engaging with them. So much so, and I'll keep it now short and sweet, I do apologise, is that the employer guide now has been developed in line with employers. So that's where the engagement has really been strong and positive. So, and that's what we're trying to do, move that forward. So I hope that answers your question, and hopefully we'll have more information when the actual webinars are going to be. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Ian. So the next question is from Bill Lockyer. I'm going to start to answer it, but Dan, you may be able to add a bit of meat to the bones a bit later. So the question is the AM2 part of the apprenticeship route? So if you're not sure, the AM2 is the electrical competence test. And as I understand it, the plan is to put the AM2 into the apprenticeship. Dan, would you agree with that?
Yes, that's the guidance we are offering Welsh Government. So Welsh Government have to bring together framework developers to develop all of the future frameworks. Obviously, those frameworks will be linked to the new qualifications being developed. And so the recommendation would be that the AM2 test would be included within the relevant electrotechnical apprenticeship framework. Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much, Dan. So the next question I have is from Annie Davis. I'm going to answer this because it's specifically directed to EAL. So it says, when are EAL going to release the documentation for the foundation qualifications? So the foundation qualification is not being offered by EAL. City and Guilds will offer that qualification. And as such, you'll be able to see the content of it on the Skills for Wales website. So if you wish to deliver that, you will have to register with EAL, with City and Guilds. That said, please get in touch with, if you've got contact at EAL, speak to us and we will direct you towards the right people at City and Guilds to deliver that. Then there's further questions around when we'll see the drafts for progression and pre-foundation. Again, get in touch with us if you want to see the documents beforehand, but the progression information should be available on the Skills for website in the new year. The next question I'm going to direct to Ian, and it's from Mike Donnelly, which is which awarding body will be responsible for which qualifications? Ian, hopefully you are able to answer that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the question. The construction, because it's a consortium, the construction element will be with City and Guilds, and the plumbing, the electrical, and the building services, I should say, will be through EAL, and that's the way it will work. Although the consortium is together, partnership on the quality side and everything else, we will be sharing the relevant documents, but that's where it will be split between. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Ian. So the next question, I'm going to ask Dan to answer this, is have the transition arrangements been finalised and released? And that will be from the old...
Oh, sorry, go on.
So I was just going to say from the legacy qualifications to the new suite.
Yeah, so we're currently in the process of finalising all of the different scenarios because there are quite a few scenarios to consider. But from a kind of a broad perspective, where those transition arrangements are looking is if you were a brand new entrant into construction or building services engineering, you'll be starting the new qualifications or starting a level 1 programme of learning using, for example, construction skills or building service engineering skills at level 1. If the learner is not ready to go into level 2 learning, other direct entrants would start on the level 2 foundation programme. And those learners who are currently on level 1 learning programmes at the moment will move into the level 2 foundation qualification. And ultimately those that would be going into work-based learning groups, so onto apprenticeship frameworks from September 2021, will be starting the new level 3 qualifications within specific trades. There are other combinations and other considerations made in other scenarios for certain learners, which we're just finalising and having dialogue with a number of different providers to make sure that everything is in place. But there will be some legacy provision available from September 2021 to accommodate all the different learner journeys.
Excellent, thank you very much, Dan. So the next question I'm going to direct to Susan Beattie from Darren Oates, and it's a follow-on from their direct claims. And Darren would like to know how long the direct claim status restrictions will be in place.
Okay, thanks for that. At the moment, it'll be 2 years, so direct claim status is restricted for at least 2 years then. So it is going to be 2 years before direct claim status could be applied to any of the qualifications.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Susan. And the next question is for you as well, which is around, it's from Jasper Mead. So we don't have a City and Guilds centre approval as yet. We're completely new. If we want to run these qualifications, are these the forms we complete, or are they separate centre approval forms? So I appreciate you won't be able to answer directly, but advice would be good.
No, it will be those application forms that are completed then. So Jasper, being a completely new centre, it will be that application that you'll complete for your centre and qualification approval then. So the qualifications, whether it is for City and Guilds or EAL you're applying for, or both, it'll be the one application form you complete. So there's no other form you complete then, it's just that one. I hope that helps.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you, Susan. And it appears your flavour of the day at the moment, Susan, because there is another question for you. Is there a cost to centre approval?
That's an easy question. No, centres will not be charged centre or qualification approval fees. So if centres apply for centre and qualification approval at one point and then later find as well they want to apply for other qualifications, there will not be any fees for these qualifications at all. So there won't be any approval fees.
Fantastic.
So I should say what we are looking at is it may be that we may charge if there needs to be additional checks. We will confirm that with centres though, but there won't be any fees charged for qualification centre approval.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Susan. So the next question is for Dan. And the question is from Mike Donnelly. He says, should apprentices be employed prior to agreeing the training plan and requirements with them?
Great, thanks, Paul. So this would be at the discretion of the centre ultimately. So there won't be a prerequisite within the qualifications that the individual that is registering would need to be employed by an employer. However, there are requirements in the Welsh Government SASU arrangements and funding on apprenticeship frameworks that would come into play in this. So it's really at the centre and the employer's discretion about when they bring the apprentice on and when that training plan is put together.
Fantastic, thank you, Dan. So the next question I've got is for Ian. And this is from Daniel Evans. It says, how will the new qualification affect candidates that have grandfather rights and need a qualification to gain CSCS card, as there will be no NVQs going forward?
Yeah, thank you. There will be NVQs, but first of all, let me just stress there's no NVQs in the current new suite of qualifications, but the NVQs will still be available for the experienced worker through the OSAT route. So NVQs will still be here to help support the experienced worker with no formal qualifications, which will then help the individual through grandfather rights to gain the CSCS card. So I do apologise if I've misled you, but MVQs will still be here and moving forward. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Ian. So the next question is for David. It's from Neil Clancy. It says, for the foundation qualification, can you mix the building services trade with a construction trade?
Thanks, Paul. Hi, Neil. There are some common units, so that may be possible in your planning. I think this is where the delivery planner document, as basic as it is, gives you a nice overview, and maybe you can sit back with other teams and have a look at the unit delivery. There are 2 pathways that need to be selected at foundation, so obviously they'll be sector-based dependent on those choices, but there may be some efficiencies that centres can look at, and I would recommend that you try and use the delivery planner and the foundation documents for the units to see where you may achieve these.
Okay, fantastic. Can I add to that, David, the qualification constraints? There's no constraint that ties you to one sector or another. You could undertake a BSc pathway and a construction pathway as far as the qualification goes. Whether that's right for you and your learners is something for you to work out, as David says. Thank you. So the next question I've got is for Ian, and it's from Mike Donnelly again. Are small employers being involved in the implementation of these programs?
Yes, definitely, to be fair. And we can, honestly, we send out, like I've said, regular, at least 180 emails monthly to micro businesses, I'll be honest. And we're also heavily involved with the join the focus group meetings as well. And this is supported through, like I've mentioned earlier, the Federation of Master Builders and CITB. It's not true what people think, that CITB just deal with tier 1 contractors. They deal with micro businesses as well. So we do reach out through their networks, plus the Federation of Master Builders, plus the contacts that we have as well, and also through the NFB, the National Federation of Builders, and like we've mentioned earlier, the Federation of Small Builders, and also through the various colleges. Colleges also send out the information that we forward to them. So hopefully we're reaching out to as many employers that we possibly can, and that covers the entire width and breadth of Wales. If anybody isn't being reached out to and the field have been left out, please don't hesitate, drop us an email, and we'll keep you well updated and well informed. But yes, definitely. I don't like to name them individually because there is a considerable number, but if anybody would like to get the names, then please don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ian. So the next question I've got is for Dan, and it's from Lee Lewis. And again, it's around funding, but this time of level 1 courses. Will level 1 courses still be funded for full-time students?
Yes, there will be fundable level 1 programs from September 2021, and the Welsh Government is working closely with the BAC Network Wales to look at the programs for learning for individuals at level 1 and which qualifications will be in those learning programs.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you. So this question is for Susan. From Nigel Rees, and it is, will we have 2 EQAs, one for EAL and one for City and Guilds?
That is possible, yes. We're still looking at the EQA pool that we have between the 2 awarding organisations then. So it is possible you could have one EQA for construction and one EQA for the plumbing, plaster and that sort of thing. Then it is possible, yeah.
Thank you, Susan. The next question I've got is, I believe it's either Susan or David will be able to answer this question. So it's from Martin Pearson. It says, can you confirm that IQA for the foundation will need to hold a valid IQA award?
Yeah, from memory, when you look at the resource document, it lists the qualifications required for the IQA. I can double check, but I'm pretty sure that the IQA award is on there, yeah.
Yeah. Susan, have you got any information whether that's correct or not?
No, I would agree with David in that. So I would follow David's guidance in that. But yeah, I would follow David. Sorry.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So the next question is for Susan again. If a centre is forced to become a new centre, will the current minimum spend be implemented?
No, I believe it won't. I think for these centres who, as Davin said, are forced to become a City and Guild centre for these qualifications, then no, they will be exempt from the minimum spend.
Fantastic. Thank you, Susan. So the next question is for, I think Dan would be best placed to answer this. There have been quite a few questions, all on a similar route, but it is basically, what is the final date for the registration on current qualifications? We're talking about funded qualifications, obviously.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Paul. So the current end dates for funding are the end of May next year for the current qualifications that are in the system, barring those qualifications that will be made available to returning learners in the guise of the transitional arrangements, which learners will be able to register where appropriate after September 2021. It will be likely that the window for registration for those types of learners, so those returning from for another year or a number of years into legacy qualifications, the deadline for those is likely to be the end of December 2021.
Thank you very much, Dan. So the next question I've had, I'll answer this. It's more of a functional question on how things are going. So I've had a question from Denise asking if questions are coming through. Yes, they're coming through. You have to please bear with us. We're getting a lot of questions, so it's taking a bit of time to read through and choose ones that people can answer. As I said, we will publish answers to all of the questions that we can do after the webinar if we do miss you during this session. So the next question is for Susan Beattie, and it is around, will multi-site colleges need approval for each campus?
Thanks for that. We are still looking at that, so we're still considering whether we will need an application for one college or if it will be needed across the campuses. So we will confirm that as soon as we can. It's just still in discussion at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. So if you could give me a couple of seconds to trawl through these questions again. As I said, we have got quite a lot. I'll find some that we can answer. Yeah, so as I'm looking at now, I can see that we've answered pretty much everything that we can. There are some questions that need a bit of consideration, and we're going to have to go through. I appreciate some people have asked questions and had follow-ups that we are going to have to consider. So I'd probably give it a couple of minutes, and then we'll probably end the presentation in a minute or two. We just had another question from Mike asking when the frameworks will be updated. Dan, are you able to give any information? Obviously, it's the Welsh Government deals with that, but any advice you've got would be brilliant.
Yeah, so I assume this is the apprenticeship frameworks, and I think I can answer Kevin Robinson's question around funding and increased costs around apprenticeship frameworks as well. So yes, so the Welsh Government is currently out seeking a developer for the new frameworks. I believe that's due to be completed in the early new year. That developer will then bring together a working group to work through what the framework should look like, and at the same time the government will also then bring together different providers to start to calculate the cost of those apprenticeships, so how much funding should be applied to those new level 3 apprenticeships. So while the government traditionally only publishes apprenticeship frameworks on the day the framework comes into force, which would be September 2021, we are strongly encouraging them to produce draft versions of those documents to share with centres and employers, so they're aware what will be required. Ultimately, our recommendation, so I can say what we're recommending as Qualifications Wales to the Welsh Government, is that the frameworks will include the the core qualification or the foundation, or the level 2 core qualification or the level 2 foundation. So if a learner has completed the level 2 foundation within further education, they would be exempt from taking that again. The relevant level 3 qualification in the specific trade, additional tests if necessary, for example, as we said earlier, the AM2 test in the electrotechnical route, but then also the relevant requirements around Essential Skills Wales. And our recommendation to Welsh Government at the moment is the current levels in the frameworks for each of the trades for Essential Skills Wales should remain the same. So while that I'm afraid I can't answer your full question when they'll be available, we are strongly encouraging the government to make them available as soon as possible. But generally speaking, I've just outlined what our recommendations in regards to what should be in the framework.
Thank you, Dan. So the next question I think is also for you, Dan, and this is from Patrick Mann. It says, if a learner is already enrolled on the current level 2 NVQ diploma as part of an apprenticeship, will they be able to continue with the current level 3 suite of NVQ diploma to complete the existing level 3 apprenticeship?
Yeah, our current thinking around transitional arrangements on the apprenticeship frameworks is learners that were coming from a level 2 diploma on an apprenticeship needing to go up to level 3 would actually move on to the new level 3 trade specific qualifications developed by City and Guilds and EAL. However, we are working closely at the moment with City and Guilds and EAL to look at what would be recognised as prior learning and prior achievement in those instances. So learners going from that level 2 to that level 3 would likely be exempt from some of the assessments.
Thank you, Dan. The next question I've got is for Ian. It's from Royston Evans. So how will the new qualifications work with the apprentice applying for CCS card on completion of the qualification?
Yeah, thank you. Upon completion of the qualification, the learner will be able to apply for the CSCS card, because the employer guide, the forms in there, is fully referenced to the minimum occupational competency statements that the learner will have to complete and gather evidence from industry. So that's where the work-based evidence will be gathered from. Then obviously the learner on the apprenticeship, would be completing the work-based project as well, plus some other assessments. And on, like we mentioned on the stage 8, step 8, upon completion of all the components, which the learner will do, then they'll be able to apply for the CSCS card to move that forward. So it all fits in effectively to move that forward. Thank you.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much, Ian. The next question I've got, I will answer this one. It's from Annie Davis. I believe she's a BSE school. We would be they're a City and Guild centre, would like to offer plumbing and electrical going forward. That means does it need to go through EAL? So the answer is, if you are offering those at foundation, you can stay with City and Guilds. However, when you move to progression and the level 3 apprenticeship qualifications, you would have to move to EAL. As we said, there's no financial cost to registering all that, but there will be a jump in the administration of those elements. So the next question we're going to offer to Susan is from Darren Oates. Will the consortium be looking at contracting associate consultant EQAs?
Oh, thanks, Paul. The short answer is yes, we will be. If anyone is interested, we're still looking at the pool of EQAs that we have just now, but we will be looking at contracting with further EQAs then and associates. If anyone is interested, what you could do is email your CV to associate.management@cityandguilds.com and email it, include in the body of the email that you're interested in being an EQA for the new construction qualifications then. I'm happy to have a chat with anyone as well if anyone is interested in becoming an EQA, and if you email skillsforwales.quality@cityandguilds.com, I'll pick up any emails and we'll be happy to have a chat with anyone.
Thank you, Susan. So the next question I have is for Ian. It's from Chris Bond. Sorry, Chris, we haven't managed to get around to answering your previous question before. It's the question is, as an OSAT team member, we need to know what our role will be and what will it entail. Ian, are you able to answer that?
Yeah, no problem at all, to be honest. Yeah, like we mentioned earlier, the MVQs will still remain through the OSAP provision. So the OSAP team member within that particular role will still be there. Regarding the roles for the new construction qualification, construction building services qualification moving forward, there'll still be roles there for assessors to move forward, because like we've said, the work-based project has got to be carried out and assessed on site accordingly. But like we've mentioned earlier, we've provided the documentation for the roles and responsibilities that's gone out there. They'll be identifying the various roles that will be carried out. So there will be availability to carry out the various roles moving forward. But again, that's what the college will look at and decide on which particular areas they will go down. So yes, but it's like I've mentioned earlier, the MVQs will still remain for the OSAP provision. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. I think we'll make this our last question, and we're going to direct it to Anne Harrod. It's from Mike Donnelly, and he has asked, can all of the draft documentation discussed today be sent out to the participants here today?
Yes, they will be sent out after the webinar, and the documents will also be on our website, the skillsforwales.wales website. There is going to be some documents being uploaded by the end of the week, but keep an eye out for them. But yeah, they will be sent out to you as well, and the recording of the webinar will also be on the website.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Anne Harrod. So we'll end the question and answer session there. Thank you for sending the questions in. I really apologise if we didn't get around to answering your questions. There's been a lot of them. And as you can imagine, some of them are quite complex to try and get your head around in a short question and answer session like this. As we said, what we'll do after this meeting is we'll go through all of the questions and make sure we can answer everything as appropriate. So with that, I'd like to hand back to Anne Harrod, if that's okay, and we'll just wrap everything up.
Great, diolch. Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi gyd am eich holl gwestiynau. Thank you very much for all your questions. It's been great listening to them all. Diolch yn fawr iawn eto i'n panelwyr heddiw. Thank you very much to our panelists today, so Dr Daniel Tromans, David Pye, Ian Roberts, Porrice and Susan Beattie. Diolch yn fawr iawn hefyd i'r holl randdeiliaid, aseswyr, tutoriaid, cyflogwyr a phawb arall sydd yn ein cyfnogi ac yn ein helpu I ddatblygu y cymwysterau newydd yma. Ni wir yn gwerthfawrogi eich amser a chymrwyniad. Very big thank you also to all our stakeholders, assessors, tutors, employers and everyone else who's supporting us develop these new qualifications for Wales. We really are grateful for your time and commitment. Cadwch lygad ar ein gwefan, fe fydd rhaid dogfennau ar ein gwefan erbyn diwedd yr wythnos ac yn cael ei ddiweddaru yn gyson. Fe fydd hefyd cyfres o webinarau yn digwydd ac yn cael ei gyhoeddi rhwng Ionawr ac Ebrill. Please keep an eye out on our website as we will be uploading documents by the end of the week and updating regularly, and there will be a series of webinars from January to April to support centres and employers with delivery. If you can move the slide along, please, David. Felly mae'ch adborth yn bwysig I ni ac mae'n ein helpu I wneud yn siŵr ein bod yn cyfathrebu yn y ffordd gywir ac mae'n rhoi gwybod I ni pan fo angen gwella'r wybodaeth rydyn ni'n ei roi I chi. Cadwch lygad am e-bost yn gofyn I chi am eich adborth ar y webinar hon. Your feedback is important to us as it can really help us make sure we are communicating in the right way and informs us on making improvements to the information we provide you. Please look out for an email asking for your feedback on this webinar. Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi am wrando ac am eich cwestiynau. Os oes gennych chi diddordeb mewn helpu datblygu'r cymwysterau hyn, neu os oes gennych chi unrhyw gwestiwn arall, gallwch gysylltu â ni ar skillsforwales.customer@citygills.com neu gallwch gysylltu gyda unrhyw un yn uniongyrchol. Thank you very much for listening and for your questions. If you are interested in supporting with the development of these qualifications, or if you have any further questions, then please contact skillsforwales.customer@citygills.com. Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi. Please cysylltwch gyda ni os gallwn ni gefnogi chi mewn unrhyw ffordd. Thank you very much to you all, and please get in touch if we can support in any way. Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi. Thank you.